What's going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be taking a look at my first win against Red Zone Boujack here. We are using the Ginyu Force 200% team. I'm sure it should come as no surprise. So we've also got the Planet Namek Saga support memory there active. So everybody's going to be getting 15% attack and defense bonus as well, which is going to be super helpful for this fight. I would say this fight is probably like the third hardest in the game. Definitely, it's definitely difficult, especially at that last phase because of all of the locking and sealing and stuff that he does to you. That makes it impossible for a lot of teams to get through this event because you need powerful units out the gate. This first phase is not to be taken lightly either because, there's some very hard hitters here. It took me a little bit to decide how I wanted to start this first turn, just because I knew that the physical Ginyu Force wasn't the strongest, and I didn't want them to get, like, type disadvantage attacked at the end there. So I decided to seal up Gokua and then just focus all my damage on him. But yeah, I figured it would be a good idea to get Gokua out of here quickly, that way the Ginyu Force LR doesn't have to worry about being our demise. So Jace is able to call out a nice little super attack there at the end for us, which is going to be very good. So yeah, we definitely know not to leave Jace in the final slot there because he will get us killed for sure. And unfortunately, we don't have any of our sealing units on rotation right now. In fact, I think Rakuma Goldo is our only unit that can seal. So yeah, without them around on the rotation, then we're not going to be able to seal up the enemy. Because that is one way that you can save yourself in this first phase of this Boujack fight, is that these guys can all be sealed. They can't be stunned, but all the other status effects that you can put on an enemy, you can put on these guys. So I definitely recommend bringing like attack lowering units or units that can seal, that can be very helpful for getting through this first phase. Especially while some of your other units are still building up. But yeah, when it comes to later turns in this fight, this team is so ridiculous. They are pretty much unstoppable. I've been saying in quite a few videos recently that I've been using them in, these red zone runs, that they are, like, there's very few situations that you can find them in that they're going to, like, struggle. So they just took a type disadvantage super attack for 200k, which in red zone is a big deal. That's a really good thing, to be able to like survive a type disadvantage super. It's a little unfortunate that they didn't just dodge that, because that is kind of the deal behind their kit. But we've got a lot of defense on this team, so I don't think that the 50% HP loss is going to make too much of a difference for us. I'm sure we'll be able to see that we are able to get back up to full HP pretty quickly here. And then obviously with these critical hits, we're doing a ton of damage to the enemies too. So if we are able to get critical hits, like, this is a very strong rotation for us because we've got both of our Captain Ginyus here. So unfortunately, we're taking another type disadvantage super attack, but you can see there it didn't even do 100k to us because our defense is already getting high enough to be able to handle that. So yeah, so far we are doing very well. And then, we just sealed up Beto there. So that is very good for us as well. Having him sealed up and attack lowered is going to make him much less of a threat on the next turn. And then, fortunately, we get a triple super attack turn with this Ginyu as well. So with two type disadvantage units, we're able to take out Zangya in one turn. So that is very impressive. And then we are luckily still above the 40% HP mark there. Not by much, but we are above it. So Golden Frieza is still going to be able to tank for us, which is good. And then we're able to get back up to like 60% HP here just by selecting type orbs, which is also very advantageous. Because, we are towing the line, but in order for Golden Frieza to be useful at all for us, we need to start every turn above 40% HP. If he comes on rotation and we start the turn below then he is going to obviously be useless, and we're going to have to make sure that he doesn't get touched at all. That's like the one downside with using him. But lucky for us, we do have the option to transform. I can't remember if we actually take that option, though. I want to say we don't, because it would make more sense to continue to raise our defense for a little bit here. First, since we still have the second phase before we're going into that final phase against a tech enemy. But okay, I guess I do go ahead and do the transformation here. I think, you know, quite a few times in some of these earlier Super Battle Road runs, or Red Zone runs that I've been doing, I've just been hanging on to all of my options for too long. So I have this habit of, like, when I'm doing Super Battle Road stages, what I like to do is I like to keep fighting the stage over and over until I can basically no item the first fight, and then I'll use items on the final 2 fights, because then it just pretty much makes it a shoo-in for me to win, because if I manage to RNG my way through the first fight without having to depend on any item usage, then I have so many items left for the rest of the fight, it makes it really hard to lose at that point. The problem with that is that it takes quite a few attempts to get through that first fight sometimes, depending what stage you're doing, you know, without having to use any items. So I have that same tendency that I try to do a lot, like on these Red Zone stages, and a lot of the times that strategy just doesn't end up working out for you. You're kind of forced to use a lot of your resources early on if you want to survive. So even though it would have been nicer to be able to save the Ginyu transformation so we could have an extra heal for later on in the fight, it just, a lot of the times, if you end up keeping everything in your pocket, then you just die with a bunch of stuff in your pocket, rather than having used all your transformations and used all your items and stuff to get you further in the fight. So yeah, we did opt to use that transformation, and then there you can see we were already going to be safe because the Golden Frieza obviously is going to tank the super attack perfectly fine, but then he just adds insult to injury and dodges it. I've got a full dodge build on that Golden Frieza. It only makes sense to, because like, imagine if we had gone into this turn below 40% HP, then that could have been a clutch dodge that saved our life or something, you know. So yeah, definitely a good idea to have full dodge on units that are mainly meant to be defensive anyway. Especially if they don't need to build up or anything, you don't need to give them additional attacks, they just outright tank. Then yeah, definitely dodging is the way to go with those types of units. So yeah, this is really good. Already we've got one of our transform Ginyus, so he's going to start raising attack starting from this turn, and that is going to be super advantageous for us, especially going into that final phase against a tech enemy. I've got the video sped up here a little bit if you couldn't already notice, and the reason for that is because it takes us quite a while to get through that final phase. This team is super solid defensively against Boujack because it doesn't have a lot of holes, and this final phase of Boujack is going to be locking our characters and sealing them up so that they can't do their super attacks, you know, which is going to do one of two things. It's going to make it so that it's a lot harder for us to kill him, because he has so much more, you know, HP, and if we're not able to super attack him every turn because he keeps sealing us up, then we're going to be struggling to do damage to him, and it's just going to take more and more turns to get through the fight. And then the other thing that's going to do is it's going to prevent us from getting any stacks, because some, you know, like the Raccoon and Goldo are raising their defense on super, but luckily they have guard as well with the Ginyu around, so they aren't going to need those stacks too much. But then, you know, our Captain Ginyus themselves are not going to be getting their attack and defense raises on super attack. So that's why I'm trying to get as many stacks in as possible before we get to that final phase, because I know that we're going to struggle then. And so we're getting dodged quite a bit here, which is not too much of an issue for me. I'm actually okay with the fact that he's dodging us here, because then it's just going to give us more turns on this fight to be able to get all those stacks before we go into that final phase. Because it is against a tech enemy, so I want our Ginyus to be built up as built up as they possibly can be, because obviously they're going to have type disadvantage in the end, and I want them to be able to tank as good as possible. So yeah, you can see there, even with that Ginyu still stacking up onto the last turn, we still took like 200k from a super attack from him. So this friend Ginyu is definitely going to struggle a little bit, because we had to transform him early, so he's no longer getting any defense raises. He's now just going to be getting a bunch of attack raises. But I would say that the attack raises at this point are equally important. only because we're going to be facing a tech enemy at the end, and our 2 main damage dealers are AGL. You know, there's not a ton of damage that this team is going to be able to provide outside of the 2 Ginyus here. So having the transform Ginyus that are going to start raising their attack stats are going to help out a lot. So you can see here we're already up to an 8 million attack stat. That is going to help out so much, especially if we're able to get some critical hits in the next phase. Then that's going to help us start ramping up the damage there a little bit, and do a little better. So we are really close to the Dokkan attack right now, and I think an unfortunate thing is about to happen. So because he dodged a few of our attacks on the last turn, we weren't quite able to finish him off here. We didn't get that additional super. That would have been nice. So, yeah, so now we're actually a little bit stuck at the moment, because it would have been nice to be able to get the, you know, to get the Dokkan attack on the final fight to provide as much damage there as possible. But instead, we have to get the Dokkan attack here on this phase. So I want to say I blundered a little bit, because I did transform just now with the Ginyu. I suppose it's okay, you know, just to get as much, you know, damage out as possible. So we are going to have, you know, we are going to start raising his attack stats now. But we just wasted our last heal, and the Dokkan attack was already going to heal us. So it might have been smart for me to not transform Ginyu here. And instead just, you know, keep Golden Frieza in slot 1, do the Dokkan attack with Golden Frieza anyway, and then just move on from there. Because obviously transforming the Ginyu gave us the medium chance to proc the Scouter, so we were able to see that there was no super attack in slot 1. But if I hadn't transformed him, I would have definitely put the Golden Frieza in slot 1 for fear of being supered right away and dying, because our HP was a little bit low there. So yeah, I don't know that we would have healed all the way anyway, and then we probably would have been able to use his transformation on the next turn coming up. You know, after this rotation, when he came back onto rotation, we probably could have been able to do that. So here I had an interesting option. I could have left Jason Birder on rotation just because they have type advantage with the dodging. They could be a really solid unit to leave around, but because they were sealed up and they weren't going to be able to get any defense raises on their super attack, and they weren't going to be able to deal any damage either, I decided to just rotate them off. And I think it just makes more sense to keep the Rikuma Goldo around because they're such a solid defensive unit. So you can see here, even though they're type neutral, because they have the guard up and stuff, they're only taking 100k from a super, which pre-super attack for them is good, because they do get a healthy amount of defense after they super. So I will definitely take that, and we have plenty of HP still to work with. And there you can see we're up to 9 million attack stat with the friend Ginyu, so that is really good. Unfortunately, he dodged our attack though. So yeah. Locking us wasn't too detrimental this turn, but obviously the Jason Birder can do some big damage if they're able to get like a triple super attack turn and get some raises there. And so now, again, he's locking Ginyu in the middle slot, so that is really unfortunate. He does... I was checking his dodge chances here. I needed to see how his dodging mechanic worked, so he actually is getting a 10% chance to dodge for each super attack, or for each... for each attack he performs. So, yeah, so basically after this turn he's going to have like a 20 or 30% chance to dodge that, but if he doesn't dodge it, his HP is way too low to tank the attack and we could die. So I am contemplating using my Whis here to save our life, and I do end up proccing one of the Whis just to make sure, because if he doesn't dodge, then we would be dead. The scary part about that is we've already used both of our transformations, so we don't have any heals left because we've already used the Dokkan attack too. And we have basically this entire enemy still to get through. So I am very nervous about using our items already, because if we end up in a low HP scenario, we're pretty much dead at this point. We have exhausted all of our resources early, so now all we have left to depend on is a few more turns of Whis, and then that's it. So it was a good thing we used the Whis because he didn't end up dodging, and we take a solid almost 200k damage. So yeah, that was very, very good. Unfortunate that he sealed us up, and then he just decides to go ahead and lock our physical Ginyu in slot 1. So that is really bad news. We still have a Whis active, so we shouldn't be in too much trouble here. But now I struggle with whether to leave the Ginyu on rotation or not, because obviously the friend Ginyu is going to be our main damage dealer. But the Rakuma Goldo are such a solid defensive unit that it sucks having to rotate them off. But I don't really have any other choice here, because if I rotate off both my Ginyus, this fight is just going to take us way too many turns, and we're not going to be able to get this done. I need to depend on the Ginyus to get some damage in. So I do opt to rotate off the Rakuma Goldo here, which is a really, really nasty decision, because we have 2 Ginyus on this rotation, and the other Ginyu just got rotated off the other rotation. So that means that when Rakuma and Goldo come back around, they're not going to have their guard active, which can be a very, very sticky scenario for us. Lucky for us, we're upwards of 10 million attack stat now with this friend Ginyu. So as you can see there, with the critical hit, he is able to put out quite a bit of damage. Unfortunately, we don't get any additional super attacks, though. So the RNG has just been really, really not in our favor. But this team has been doing its damnedest to, you know, to continue to support itself. And we are staying alive here against all odds, honestly. I think most other teams under these circumstances would have died a long time ago. Just with the supreme amount of, like, and then again, you can see here, he locks our Ginyu in slot 3. So he's really just not giving us any breaks. He is coming at us with everything he's got. It's really, really rough to deal with. Luckily, we do proc the Scouter ability here, though, so we are able to see that it's smart to put Golden Frieza in the second slot there. And then also, finally, Jason Birder are able to get off some attacks against this guy, which is good, because, you know, but then of course they don't get any additional supers, so they really aren't able to do that much damage for us, after all, which is kind of the worst. And then obviously our Ginyu has not built up his attack nearly as much, and he's only 55%, so he's not stacking at as high of a rate. But luckily we're able to get an additional super here, so that helps out a bit. This is our last turn of any items active, by the way, too, because we used our other Whis 2 turns ago. So after this turn, we are completely unprotected here. So we are now completely raw with no items left, I believe. And look at the scenario. We are just struggling so hard. He locked our Ginyu in slot 3 again. Oh, we did have the one more Whis. I guess I opted not to use him earlier. So then I think that's the only reason that we were able to survive this. Because if we had used that Whis, there was nothing we could do to survive this turn. Because he locked the one defensive unit we had on rotation in slot 3. So we were absolutely screwed. We were going to have to take all of those attacks for the first 2 turns there. So luckily that Whis was able to save us. And then we were able to clutch out a win here. But man, this was no easy fight. Even with this team, this was a bit of a struggle. This was my first attempt on Boujack with the Ginyu Force team. So I think that does speak to their capability. This team is really just so nuts. But yeah, so drop a like on the video if you like the Ginyu Force team too, because it's my favorite team in the game to use, and I think it will be for a long time to come. So yeah, still unfortunately no win there. So we still got to keep powering through for one more turn. We're not fully in the clear yet. You know, we could always just get hit with a super attack and die. Though I think on this rotation it's pretty unlikely because we got some solid defensive support here. You know, we have like dodge kings, guard kings, and then damage reduction kings. So we were pretty protected on all fronts there. But yeah, so that is how we got our win against Red Zone Boujack. If you guys enjoyed what you saw here, then come be a part of the Toxic Tribe with the like, comment, and subscribe on the video. We are still trying to get to 77 subscribers, so help me reach that goal. I would greatly appreciate it. That is going to do it for this one, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace!